In this tabletop review, I'm going to be discussing the BlackHawk rail-mounted vertical grip, which has a street price of around $10 to $12, depending upon where you buy it. It ships in this bag right here, which I'm going to go ahead and open up and take it out, and we'll take a look at the contents. Instructions, bolts, O-rings, Allen key, bottom plug, middle section piece, and top section piece. So those are the contents of the bag. The instructions, I'll read that later. Now, the BlackHawk rail-mounted vertical grip is constructed of a high-performance fiberglass reinforced polymer. Use of a forward vertical grip improves weapon control and heat management. And heat management meaning basically you're holding onto the grip and not holding onto your hand guards, so your hand's not going to heat up as much. You've got a redundant clamp which provides a more secure mounting mechanism. It's adjustable to accommodate for out-of-spec rails. It has O-ring sealed compartments for tools, batteries, and such. That's pretty much all of the specs I have for it. It's made in the USA. So you've got two ways you can use this. You can use this as a mini compact vertical grip like so. And you can see there's a compartment here, and this cap just screws in on the bottom. And you can install this and you're good to go. Now if you want a longer type of grip design, you can screw in this bottom piece. So now you've got a full vertical grip. And in this situation you wouldn't use the plug, you'd just use this. Also, using this extension, there is a good amount of space inside of here as well as here, so you can definitely store a lot more batteries or tools, parts, the oil bottles, whatever, if you went this route. We've got the BlackHawk logo. I don't see anything else on here. Everything is polymer. We've got some marks from injection molding, or however it's assembled. We've got some grooves all the way across here. Fits good in the hand. It's good size. Going back to these instructions. Well, talks about thread screws into pre-pressed nuts, torque screws to 30 to 40 inch-pounds. Over-tightening may damage rail. You could add some thread locking compound onto the bolts as well. And then, of course, it talks about installing the O-ring and only hand tighten the caps. BlackHawk, www.blackhawk.com, and that's about it for the instructions. Now this little bag right here of accessory components, we'll take a look at what's inside here. Okay, our bolts. These bolts look like that you can tighten them using the included Allen wrench, or you can use a flat blade screwdriver. So that's a nice feature. You don't see that too often. This is the cross piece. This piece is metal. Our little nuts, 2 rubber O-rings, and our cap. Now, There were no instructions on where exactly the O-rings go, but we can, just by making some logical assumptions, the O-rings can only really go on these parts here. And we'll just kind of get this O-ring all the way down. Let's see if I, not exactly, I believe this O-ring needs to go all the way down. At least I think it needs to go all the way down. Maybe not. Maybe I had to try it right where it is. Well, it goes in. I'm just not sure if it needs to be down a little bit further or not. It might need to go down all the way. I'll play around with that later. So two O-rings, one for here and one for here, depending upon how you're going to run it, or you can just keep one of these O-rings in reserve as a spare. And I'll get this O-ring on here. So not too complicated to get this on here. Okay, so you can see where I have the O-ring. What's somewhat in question right here is, does it stay right here, or do I pop it over the lip and push it further down? And that I don't know. So since the directions are not specific about that, let's go ahead and assemble this. So our two little nuts go in there and there, and of course they're not pressure fit, so they'll fall out if you're not careful. And I'm making an assumption that it goes in this orientation. Okay, so my observations, I like what I see so far. The threading, the parts go together well. It's a decent construction. You've got a broad mounting surface here. You know, you've got two bolts in this wide piece and this wide piece. So this will mount to a 2-inch Picatinny rail section. Very easily. It's going to be very firm once it's mounted. A lot of rail-mounted components don't use two bolts, and they don't have a large mount section like this. You might have a large section here and then a really small section here. So those I don't particularly care for, but when you get into this size, these normally work out very well, especially for vertical grips. I like the flexibility. If you're like me, I like to run short vertical grips, so this is a nice orientation. I also like grips that provide storage capability, waterproof storage capability, because I like to carry batteries and a little oil bottle and possibly an Allen wrench or two. So this is a nice feature. With most vertical grips, You either get a full-size one or you get a mini one like this. With this convertible one, depending upon what your needs are at the time, you can add this section down here and have a full-size grip. So this convertible type design gives you a bit more flexibility. And for about $10, this is a great buy. I don't have anything really negative to say about this right at the moment. The instructions for assembly of this were basically non-existent. It would be nice if it had a little bit more instruction, especially for a proper placement of the O-ring. But you know, that's not a deal breaker. It comes with a wrench, and the fit and finish of it is good, and you can't beat the price. Since I don't have any other talking points, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this on my SBR, and we'll take a look at how this looks on my SBR and how well it mounts up to a 2-inch rail section. Okay, I've got my SBR out. I've got a 2-inch rail section on the bottom of a Troy Alpha rail here, and we're going to install the BlackHawk Vertical Grip. Now what I did was I put those bolts. If you noticed earlier, these, or not the bolts, the nuts keep falling out of this hole. They don't pressure fit into there. So I put a little piece of tape on the back just to hold those nuts in place. Because to get this installed, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take these bolts out, because the bolts are basically going to go through those channels in the Picatinny rail. Now we're going to do something along the lines of this. Get the alignment where we want it. And of course, okay. Right, that's a bit loose, but at least I've got it on there. And just get that tightened down a bit. And of course, I didn't put any thread locker on this because I'm not sure this is exactly the spot I want this or the rail. I'll play around with that later, but for the purposes of this video, I just want to get it on here so you can see the installation procedure. So there we go. It's still a little loose, of course, but that's okay. It's not going to fall off. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this on this particular rifle or maybe on another. Since I have a light on here and I have a contact switch I need to be able to access, using something like this on this particular rifle is going to cause a problem with me getting access to my light switch on the other side. But since this rifle was handy and I was already working on it, I figured it'd be a good item to use for this video. So that more or less takes care of the installation. If you want to run the shorty, you can put the cap in, or if you want to run the extension, you can screw that in. And of course this is out of frame, I apologize. There's a good view of the full-length grip. I don't normally hold my firearm like this. I normally hold it something like this. So I normally will run the shorter versions of these grips, but I like the flexibility. So I'm going to find a rifle to put this on and give it a shot at the range. So that's my tabletop review of the BlackHawk rail mount vertical grip, the convertible one, and installation on this SBR. At this point, I don't have really anything to complain about except for some lack of instructions on how to put it together, specifically with the O-rings. Other than that, it's good to go, and I think it's a great buy for about $10. So that's going to wrap up this video.